Hello and welcome to Brandturks Podcast. And today we're exploring hope in blood cancer treatment through emerging technologies like CAR-T. And we have with us today Dr. Prashant Mehta, who is an oncologist and has been trained at the prestigious AIMS New Delhi. Thank you, Doctor, for joining in. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
So let me begin by asking you why it is so particularly challenging to cure blood cancer.
So challenging because it is in particular a disease of the immune system, which actually fights your bacteria, viruses, fungi, and if those very cells become diseased, then these patients are not able to mount an immune response. Also, the cells forming various components of the blood, like even platelets, they are not adequate. So these patients are prone to infection and bleeding. And when you treat them, it is more of a challenge because when you're treating them with chemotherapy drugs, all these compartments again decline. They fall down more. So you are immunosuppressing them more. So the treatment, it also leads to adverse effects like more infections and bleeding when you're using conventional chemotherapy. So even if you overcome that, maybe some of these patients with chemotherapy may get cured, but eventually many of these again relapse after all this treatment. So you need better or less toxic treatments which actually harness, which can harness the very power of the immune system to kill the cancer. So that's where immunotherapies and immune therapies come in. So yes, you're right that it's a major challenge to treat blood cancers because it is the very compartment, the immunity compartment, which is actually diseased.
All right. So it sounds
Yeah.
very complex. So can you explain it in a layman language?
So in a you're asking me what is immunotherapy in a layman language?
Yes. And how is it
So
different from
immun,
the
yeah.
CAR-T?
So conventional chemotherapy, it actually just kills everything which comes in front of it. So it may be cancer cells, maybe your natural normal cells, normal skin cells or GI mucosa. So it's more crude. Immunotherapy is a refined form of anti-cancer treatment where you are harnessing the strength of the immune cells. Basically, normally immune cells are not able to recognize the enemy. These are soldiers which are not able to recognize the enemy, but you are retraining them, refining them to uh, identify and kill and track these enemy cells or cancer cells by genetically modifying them in the lab. So that's how immunotherapy can be defined. And in particular, CAR T cell therapy. CAR T cell therapy are living cells, living T lymphocytes of a patient, or in many cases now also a donor. But these cells generally are derived from the patient itself, and these cells actually are genetically modified in the lab to uh, target certain proteins on the cancer cells and kill them, track them and kill them selectively. So they have lesser off-target effects. So lesser damage to the normal body and more targeted. And they can produce more durable responses also because these are living drugs. They stay in the body for months to years. They just keep expanding. These are T lymphocytes generally. So that's why CAR T cells.
All right.
Yeah.
So since it's so personalized, how important is the way it is manufactured?
So it is, yes, it is personalized, but because these are living drugs, these are cellular products, genetically modified products, involves a complex process. So the whole processing, manufacturing has to follow certain standardized procedures, has to be standardized, streamlined, and it requires a lot of stringent checks and balances. So a lot of regulatory framework is there in India and the West to control and regulate the manufacturing of these drugs, personalized drugs. So yes, it's important to maintain that global and international and national standard to when we are manufacturing these drugs, so you don't go wrong during manufacture.
Sure. So can you throw some color on the global standards?
So globally, we have now several different products which are approved in the US. Some are approved in the Europe. Some have been developed and approved in China. In India, we right now have two products, and one of those is Varnim Captogene, another one is Talicaptogene, and Varnim Captogene has been manufactured with a collaborative effort of India and Spain. The vector, the viral vector, which is used to modify the T lymphocytes, is originating in Spain. So it's a lentiviral vector which introduces a certain gene in the T lymphocyte so that it can actually acquire the property of targeting the leukemia and lymphoma cells. So it is a global standard product. Similarly, a product has been developed in India. It's called Telecaptogene, which is a collaborative effort between Tata Memorial Hospital and IIT Mumbai. And both of these products have actually matched international and national standards. And as clinicians, we are happy that India has CAR T cell therapy available in the form of Cartimi and Nexcar 19. These are the brand names of these drugs now. So we are actually glad that we have this therapy available for our patients, and these are matching international standards. Yeah.
All right. So, what considerations should the patients or the caretakers should be aware of while choosing these therapies?
So I think caretaker patients should, discuss the eligibility, the criteria, if they're fitting the criteria for using such therapies. Generally, CAR T cell therapy right now, the approvals are mainly for lymphoma, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and multiple myeloma. In India, the approved ones are presently for lymphoma and acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and myeloma CAR Ts are under development right now in India. But the ones which are available, generally, these are used in very high risk settings or relapsed or refractory disease where the conventional therapies have generally failed. So this is the setting, and generally the fitness of the patient comes into play. What prior therapies the patient has taken, in what phase of disease the patient has had a relapse, and what is the interval between those therapies. Are there any previous exposures to certain drugs which can actually affect the manufacturing process, and how fit the patient is, or how good is the organ function, like heart function, lung function, liver function. All that is assessed and checked, and all this needs to be discussed with your treating doctor to find out whether you are eligible for such a treatment.
All right. So, are these Indian therapies aligned to the global standards?
Yes, because we have approvals from the Drug Controller General of India, and our drug controller also holds global standards, and the products which are approved in India are aligned with the global standards. Yes, I do feel that.
All right. What is the future outlook for the CAR T
Future outlook, I
therapy?
think
What is the
CAR
future
T,
outlook?
I think CAR T therapy will now start featuring earlier in the disease setting. Earlier we have been using it in a setting where the disease is much more resistant and refractory. And in future, I see them being used more and more in the frontline setting or the second line setting, in high risk settings, and patients who have residual disease even after the frontline therapy. Those are the settings where in future CAR T may come in, because what we are looking at is reducing the toxicity of treatment, as well as achieving durable responses particularly those patients who are at a very high risk of relapse. So it will start featuring. And also, not only CAR T, I'm looking at other cell types like NK cells or gamma delta T cells, various different type of immune cells which could be harnessed in the same way. And also I see CAR T and all these immune effector cell therapies, so-called immunotherapies, being featured in the treatment of autoimmune diseases and infectious diseases also. I see a role for them in future.
All right. So, tech is constantly evolving. So, what's next
Absolutely.
phase?
I think the next phase is, venturing into, obviously India is developing its myeloma CAR T already, but I think autoimmune diseases may be the next frontier, and I do see a place for in vivo CAR Ts where the manufacture would be not so so much required. The viral vector, maybe maybe we are injecting that into the body directly, and our body uses that viral vector to in vivo inside our body. The CAR Ts will be manufactured and kill the cancer cells. This has been already the research has already been started in the West, And I think that thought is coming into the minds of Indian researchers also now. So that may be the future.
All right. Your final words for our listeners. What can they take away from the conversation?
So I think I would just like to tell everybody that as oncologists, we have seen the treatment of cancer evolve in leaps and bounds. And I remember that about 15, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, the toxicity of treatment used to be higher. Over the years, I see that the side effects are going down. I'm not saying that we have reached perfection as of now, or will we ever reach a perfect state of equilibrium between the human body and what we do to relieve it from illness. It's going to be very difficult always, and what nature has given us, it's very difficult to match that. But science is playing a huge role in making our lives better, our quality of lives better, our survival better. So I see that in the next 10 and 15 years, things will keep on evolving more and more patients will live longer. We will achieve more cures and better quality of life. And I think it's an upward curve, and I think science will help us get there.
Thank you, Doctor. It was a pleasure talking to you. You are a pioneer in emerging technologies like CAR-T, and your commitment to saving lives is truly inspirational and a true beacon of hope. Thank you so much.
Pleasure interacting with you. Thank you.